What's good YouTube? Welcome to my channel, Last in Conditioning. Should you change your variation on your main lifts? And if so, what variation should you change to? At the end of the video, I will give you some recommendations to what variations you could change to address the specific issue that you have. In order to answer this, first you have to ask yourself, potentially get a second opinion. Are you even technically good with this particular exercise in the first place? Because if you're not, then what you need to do is actually just get good with the exercise in the first place rather than changing it. So if you are really struggling with a regular squat, it's not going to help you if you're going to change to, say, like a single leg squat or something else. You need to become better at the movement at base. So I would compare this to actually if you play a musical instrument like piano. If you start playing piano and then go playing guitar, you're not going to be a better piano player by playing guitar. Similar thing, you have to actually be technically good with a particular movement in the first place before you change variations. Variation change is used if you have particular points in the exercise that is very difficult for you. So if you don't have the technical skill yet with a particular movement, then you're just not going to get a good value for changing your variation. Alright, so if you are technically sound, say on the deadlift, but you use the touch and go method, this is something I would actually recommend that you change. Simply because I can tell you from my experience, when you use touch and go, that can work until a certain point. However, at a certain point doing touch and go, it's going to create a lot more force on your back and your spine as a whole than it would if you were to do a dead stop. Now, the reason for this, we can compare it to a car. If you have a car that's moving a forward direction, and then you put in reverse and then slam it back and then forward again, the amount of forces that you're going to experience is not going to be very comfortable. Similar for your spine. If you have a touch and go deadlift where you go down, up, it's just the forces your spine is going to experience is not going to be good, because the moment you hit the floor, you're going to start accelerating back up, but your body is still moving the opposite direction, and then you are forcing it to move the opposite again. So this is just not a good thing, particularly long term. When I stopped doing touch and go, I have not been injured when it comes to deadlifts ever since, and this was the only change that I actually made. And a good thing about changing to dead stop, it also causes you to spend a lot more time pulling directly off the floor. So if you are actually really bad off the floor, this is going to expose you and it's going to help you long term. When you change the variation of your main lift, it can be a very good idea to still keep the main lift. So if you suck off the floor with the deadlift, change to a deficit deadlift. It's going to expose you and it's going to give you more time off the floor and also cause you to train in the range where you are weaker. So most variations that you can change to is going to use less weight than you would with your normal regular movement. One of the exceptions would be a push press over a regular strict press. This is because you use leg drive, so you are more explosive, and therefore you can explode with more weight upwards. So this is going to create more wear and tear than it would if you use a regular standing overhead press, but most variations will have you use less weight. And this can be a good thing because it creates less recovery demands, but it still trains the aspects that you are struggling with. So it's a great tool to get stronger at your main lift and also cause less recovery need. Alright, there are three main points that you need to consider if you're going to change variation. One, are you skilled with the movement in the first place? If you struggle with the regular movement, like I said earlier, then you don't have really a point to argue that you change your variation. If you, on the other hand, are not struggling with this and you actually are very good with it, then it can be a good idea to actually change your variations. Point number two, what part of the lift do you struggle with? Because this will actually help you figure out what variation that you should use. And point number three, what is your training volume looking like on these movements? For instance, if you bench 2 sets 2 times a week and then you do 7 sets of chest flies because the pump feels nice, if you want to get better bench, try and allocate some of your chest fly volume to your bench volume and see what happens. Some recommendations for squats. If you struggle to get out of the bottom position in a squat, what you need to do is simply pause it at the bottom. Similar with bench press. If you struggle to get out of the bottom position, that's because that's where you're weakest, so you need to spend more time in that position. If balance in the squat is a challenge, it can actually help you change to a single leg exercise like a Bulgarian split squat, so you can challenge your balance and your stability a little bit more. Recommendations for bench press, just like with the squat. If you struggle to get out of the bottom position, pause it at the chest. This will simply just help spend more time there and then strengthen where you're the weakest. Now, if you struggle with the lockout on the bench, do a narrow grip, as this will train your triceps and you will get a better lockout strength, so you're going to have less of a hard time actually locking out the bench. Some recommendations for deadlift. If you struggle with the lockout part of your deadlift, you can use RDLs, because it's going to force you and expose you a lot more time with the position that you're going to struggle with in the Romanian deadlift. If you, on the other hand, are struggling with getting it off the floor, doing deficit deadlifts, and especially desktop deadlifts, this will help you spend more time in the position where you're weakest, and you will get stronger and you'll be able to move more weight as a result over time. Recommendations with the overhead press. If you struggle with the lockout, try some pin presses. If you can find the right way, you can place the bar a little bit higher, so you can actually train the part of the motion where you struggle. This could be a great tool to actually expose yourself and train more in that area where you are the weakest. However, if you struggle with handling higher loads, then I would recommend you start using push press, because this will teach you, one, to be aggressive, and will forces you to use a heavier load than you would normally be accustomed to, and it's going to be very uncomfortable in the first place for a while, especially until you get it drilled in. So if you follow these tips with your variations, this can help you quite a lot in your journey. Thank you for watching. Lasting Conditioning signing out. I hope you have an awesome day.